we are starting today on page 14 with Pilgrim number 4, the Prioress. So far we have covered 3 characters, and they all are related to the knight. So the knight, his son, and their servant. Okay? Yep. So today we're starting with number 4, the Prioress. And if you look at the side note, it says the supervisor of an abbey, which tells us this person is...
she's a nun.
She's a nun. She's actually higher than a nun. Yeah.
What's higher?
So higher than a nun is a prioress.
Oh. How about that?
Okay?
Now we know.
Everybody ready? This is one of the few people in the story who actually have a name.
Is she peasants? Are you peasant or is she?
So just put church. There's going to be quite a few members of the church. Would she be higher church or lower church? Higher, yep. There was also a nun, a prioress, who in her smiling, modest was and coy. Her greatest oath was but by Saint Eloi. And she was known as Madame Eglantine. Full well she sang the services divine, intoning through her nose becomingly, and fair she spoke her French and fluently. After the school of Stratford at the Bow, for French of Paris was not hers to know. At table she had been well taught withal, and never from her lips let morsels fall, nor dipped her fingers deep in sauce, but ate with so much care the food upon her plate that never driblet fell upon her breast. In courtesy she had delight and zest. Her upper lip was always wiped so clean that in her cup was no iota seen of grease when she had drunk her draught of wine. Becomingly she reached for meat to dine. And certainly she was of great disport, and full pleasant and amiable of port, and went to many pains to put on cheer of court, and very dignified appear, and to be thought worthy of reverence. But to say something of her moral sense, she was so charitable and piteous that she would weep if she but saw a mouse caught in a trap, though it were dead or bled. She had some little dogs, too, that she fed on roasted flesh, or milk and fine white bread. But sore she'd weep if one of them were dead, or if men smote it with a rod to smart, for pity ruled her and her tender heart. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. What characteristics of this person are described between lines 5 and 9?
She spoke French.
She spoke French, and she learned it
at school.
At school, not actually
in France.
So even before becoming a prioress, what kind of life did she lead?
Like an elite.
Elite, rich. Yep, because she wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't. She was educated, and not many people are educated in this time period. Okay? So she had a wealthy upbringing, speaks French. Okay, then there are several lines devoted to describing the way she eats.
Tidy.
Which seems a little weird, okay? But in this time period, manners are a lot more...
Rude? It's like if you burp isn't a good sign or something like that.
Okay, so table manners, like
you don't put your elbows
sitting correctly, following the proper procedures of a formal dining experience, and etiquette are very important. So this is somewhere during the 1300s-ish. And what kind of food do these people eat?
Bread.
They eat like bread.
Maybe.
wine.
Soups.
Okay.
I think of like Vikings.
Porridges.
I think of like Vikings.
Okay.
Whenever I hear
It's
those giant
not-
meals.
Not the stuff
Big
that
turkey legs.
we eat.
Mhm.
So they have begun to trade with the Far East for some spices, because that's where most spices originated, was in the Far East. But for the most part, their food was pretty bland. Most of us would not be able to, it would be very disagreeable to our palate, which is used to highly seasoned foods. One of the things that they did was, how many of you make, or your moms or grandmas make turkey gravy or from scratch? So, you take you cook your turkey, you take the turkey out, and you have this pot full of grease.
Yeah, the drippings.
And there's some skin, and you whip it up a little bit so that it kind of breaks into smaller pieces, and boil it and put cornstarch in it, and kablam, you have gravy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they did that, except minus the thickening part.
So it was just like juice.
So just the juice. So basically, we call that au jus. We use it for some dipping,
Oh, I didn't know that.
like mostly with
French dip.
prime rib, okay, with beef. But that's essentially what au jus is, and that's a French word. A lot of dining things originated in France. So, and this woman was educated in France also, so kind of put these things all together. Anyway, what they would do at dinner was they had this carafe kind of bowl thing with the juice in it, and you would pass it around the table from person to person. So you would have your hunk of bread or hunk of meat, and you would get the dish. I really should switch this camera around. Oh, I can't. Sorry. You guys will have to ask me. So they would take this carafe and their hunk of bread, and they would dip it in the juice. And then they would have to try to get it to their mouth without dripping. Sometimes they would also take this container and drink from it.
Oh, no way.
So when it says she never had grease on her upper lip, that's what it's referring to. And mostly this was a communal thing that you passed around. It's very, very traumatizing for many people. Okay? But she's a very nice, tidy, clean eater. Very good manners. Very proper etiquette. Okay? So then we get down to line 20, and we're talking now about her...
Like how
social.
How she's charitable and piteous, like.
Okay? So she is... What kind of person? Caring, kind.
I'd say like lovable.
Lovable. She's a very
She loved eating.
good person.
Yeah, kind-hearted.
Kind-hearted. Alright, so now I'm on line 34. And it has a side note, a superscripted number there, Wimple, which says nun's head covering. Okay, so now we're getting into what she looks like. Full properly her wimple pleated was, her nose was straight, her eyes as gray as glass, her mouth full small, and also soft and red, but certainly she had a fair forehead. It was almost a full span broad, I own. For truth to tell, she was not undergrown. Full stylish was her cloak, I was aware, of coral small about her arm she'd bear. A string of beads, gauded all round with green, and from there hung a brooch of golden sheen, on which there was first written a crowned A and under Amor vincit omnia, which means love conquers all. Another little nun with her had she, who was her chaplain, and of priests she had 3. Okay, so what does she look like?
She's wearing nun clothes.
Okay, and they're very,
Not tidy is what I heard.
very nice nun clothes, yes. What else?
They talked about a cloak, green beads, a brooch.
Okay, the beads and the brooch are part of her rosary, and it's a really nice one with coral and green beads, so it's a very nice rosary.
You said rosemary?
Yeah, the spice.
Okay,
Good.
there's a couple other things we know about her, like physically.
Her eyes are.
Yeah. Or she got a nice forehead.
Okay,
Right.
so back in these times, beauty was partially judged on the width of your forehead, the span of your forehead. So best case scenario, the most beautiful people, you would have a forehead that you could take your pinky and put it right above your brow line. And how many fingers can you fit until you get to hair? Like, I can only fit 3. I have a fairly small forehead, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't be judged by beauty like this, but yeah, 4.
I could probably cram on 4
Four-ish.
if I had to.
There's no way I can get 4.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, just stick it in there.
I mean, you can't. You gotta go at the top of your eyebrows to the.
I think I fit.
I'm
like
only 3. I'm only a 3
We're only
spanner.
3.
Okay, well, this woman can fit all 5 fingers.
Oh my god.
I guess
Between,
I'd fuck that.
Dude, that's
and
like, I don't want to.
and that is a nice forehead. Okay, it also says, for truth to tell, she was not undergrown.
She's a big lady.
Yeah.
Wait,
I think-
she like
I
thick? Or
yeah. I was gonna say, I think the word that you would
Okay.
use to describe her is thick.
She's thick woman.
Everybody's
2
definition.
C's? Is that how?
Like yeah.
Everybody's definition's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, she's not traveling alone, so we're going to add number 5 is who?
Her priestess.
Her chaplain, secretary, and then number 6, 7, and 8 are
Her priest.
3 priests. So we're going to count them. So we're on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the next person, the monk, is going to be number 9. See what I'm saying? Even though there's no description of them.
Yeah.
They're just called the nuns' priests.
Monks, so that's what we have to